Good evening and welcome to another edition of Black Press USA and NNPA's FIA program. We're talking about leaders in our community. We're going to start the program off with the leader of the national, actually, she's the national president of the African American Federal Executive Association. Her name is Miss Tyra Dent. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I appreciate that. So you're the national president of this nonprofit organization. And I'd love to give you the opportunity before we get into the interview to kind of tell us about, I think it's called the FIA, the acronym, right? FIA, the mission of FIA.
I'm happy to do so. So FIA was founded to support the preparation and advancement of African American senior leaders into the senior executive service in the U.S. government.
Now you have 40 years of experience serving the community in this capacity, right?
I do. I started in second grade, but
right.
Yes, no, I'm very, very proud of the fact that all of my career was spent in the federal government, and I retired in 2019 after about almost 41 years.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Why is FIA so important to you and its members in regards to the creation? What hole did you see that you believe FIA helps to fill?
Yes, well, our founders actually saw the need 20 years ago, but why it's been so important to me is because as I was in my early days of my career, there was no such organization that was dedicated to supporting African American senior leaders in their professional growth and development and into leadership and senior executive roles. And as I got later in my career and FIA was formed, and I immediately became a member, I just realized that it really filled a significant gap in my professional trajectory. But I was so delighted that the organization was stood up for those that have come behind me to support them, to provide a safe space, to talk about leadership issues and challenges amongst people who look like them, and to share experiences.
Now, in 2022, and actually for the last 2 or 3 years, we've been dealing with some racial issues out front. I think we've always had it there. It's always been under the surface. With FIA, what are some of the things that you do in helping connect the gap and helping, as you just said, African Americans find their place as it pertains to leadership in the executive suite?
So we spend a lot of time talking candidly about the challenges that we as African Americans face as it may relate to racial injustices or inequities in the workplace, where we aren't afforded the same opportunities to receive training, for instance, or to get the promotion that we know we're so deserving of. And so FIA provides this safe space to talk about those challenges, to talk about the unwritten rules, to talk about strategies and solutions to place us and position us in a capacity that allows us to speak our voice and in the spirit of owning our career, and ensure that we show up ready and capable and able to compete for those very same opportunities.
Now, where do you get your support? I mean, you have the organization in and of itself. Is the government in support of this? Is it just your entity and you're helping within the government? How does this work?
So it is our entity. We do have other like organizations in the community. There's, of course, many people are familiar with Blacks in Government.
Yes.
The difference between one difference between us and Blacks in Government is that our membership is targeted for GS-13s through the Senior Executive Service. So we focus our programming, our events right on a targeted population, because our mission and that mission and vision that was formed by our founders 20 years ago was to increase the number of African Americans in the Senior Executive Service. Very clear, direct, and simple. We need to increase the numbers. The numbers have not changed appreciably in over the last 5 years or so in terms of representation. There are approximately 7,000 senior executives in the federal government.
Okay.
Out of a 1.8 or 9 million person workforce. And less than 10%, or right around 10% of that 7,000 are African Americans. And so we want to have impact on that, on shifting that number, so that the number and representation of African Americans in the senior executive service is reflective of the diversity of our country.
So, Tyra, how do you reach out and let members within the federal government know about your organization and how you're able? I mean, you already told me the qualifications, you've got to be a GS 13 and up, but how do they know about your organization and how it could help them if that's their prerogative to go to the next level?
So I must tell you that it's been said that we are the best kept secret in Washington.
No, you don't want it.
No. And so we have made a concerted effort, and certainly under the current administration, which I am proud to lead, that is one of our focused strategic priorities. We have expanded our social media footprint. So for many years, we weren't on social media. And it really was a word of mouth. You know, you have an auntie or an uncle or a sister or a brother who works in the federal government, and the word would just spread by word of mouth. We host an annual leadership development workshop every September, and that is open to members and non-members, but also at the 13 through senior executive service. It's 3 days. And so that's been another opportunity for us to promote the existence of AFIA and to increase our membership. And that has yielded lots of new members and lots of awareness in our community about the organization. In the last year or so, and you mentioned changes in the workplace since the pandemic, during that time, we had a lot of federal agencies reach out to us directly, right? Because federal agencies were looking for organizations that could support them and align with their goals and objectives to increase the diversity in their specific agency. So it was refreshing that they were actually coming to us saying, can we partner with you? Can you advertise our vacancies amongst your constituency so that more people know that we are recruiting for these positions and we want to attract more African Americans?
That's a really great thing to know. I was going to ask you how the pandemic may have affected your agency. So, you know, many people are talking about, I know that there's millions of lives lost, but so many people are talking about how it just made organizations change how they do things and reach people they hadn't reached before, because everyone was doing everything via social media or the internet.
And that was absolutely our experience. That was one of the silver linings. Most of our social networking events and programs were hosted right here in the DMV. And so folks that were in California or Florida, unless their agency was willing to pay for travel, they weren't able to participate. So now we're open. Our programming is open across the U.S. And we have actually gone beyond the U.S. to global regions. At our last workshop, we had participants from Japan and from South Africa. So it really has worked to our advantage. And we are a small organization. We're volunteer based. We're growing, but our membership right now is just at about 500 members. So we invite others. I do want to say, check out our website at www.aafea.org. and learn more about the organization.
Now, we just had, I think the name was Conchita. Let me see if I can get the producer to bring up her comment about, hello, great to see AFIA is representing here. I just found out about them and joined immediately. This great information. I have never seen this amount of African American leaders in the government. Conchita, thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Yes. And sadly, we get those kinds of comments a lot. Wow. So we are certainly looking to have an impact on that.
Now I have to ask you, what are some of the themes that you've noticed about employment of Blacks in the government over the years?
So In the federal sector, there's a representative proportion of African Americans in the lower level graded positions. Okay. What the trend has been, what we've seen is that as the career ladder progresses, that number takes a sharp decline. And that's particularly the gap that we're filling. I have seen a more concerted effort in some agencies to be more innovative, I'll say, in their recruitment strategies and practices so that they are reaching a larger or a broader and diverse community. But we have a ways to go. And there's so much rich talent within the African American community. And we want to do our part to help agencies identify and connect with that talent.
Tyra, you talked about how your agency, FEF, really focuses on the GS 13 and up. And for people who are non-government employees, if you'll explain the grade level so they understand what you mean by that. I mean, of course, people in the government know, but for those who don't.
Absolutely. And sometimes we think, it's everybody knows, but essentially the federal government's, the brief response, the federal government's grade and compensation structure is based on what's called the general schedule. And it starts at the GS1 and it goes through the GS15. And within each of those grades, an employee can be promoted or advance rather to steps within that grade. So each grade has 10 steps. So you could conceivably stay in a grade for many, many, many years because you don't automatically get the steps. But then after the GS15, there is the senior executive service. And those are, I like to say, the equivalent of the CEO in the private sector within the federal space. And so they are the career executives in agencies that essentially have responsibility for the leadership and the running the day-to-day operations of organizations. They are career, the senior executives, so that when the political administration shifts, they are the individuals that are in place that maintain the continuity of government operations. They are nonpartisan, so they stay in their position, not stay in their positions, but they're within the agencies to serve in that continuity phase and to ensure a smoother transition. So I hope that helps. And then within those, of course, it's the compensation is tied to those grades.
Oh, definitely. I want to ask you now, what are some of the hopes that you have with the Biden administration as it pertains to African Americans and improving the diversity within the federal workforce?
So I am personally quite hopeful and quite encouraged by the efforts that this administration took on day one in the issuance of executive orders to focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility within the federal space. Those orders are holding agencies accountable for really looking deeply into their policies and their practices around recruitment and hiring and promoting, and really peeling back where they are identifying that there are systemic barriers to ensure equitable opportunities for all employees. So that's something that I have not seen done before to that level of depth. And so I'm very encouraged by that. And then agencies are required to develop their strategic plans on how they're going to implement and adopt the principles of the executive order. So I think we are definitely on the right track, and I think and hope that there are opportunities that are ahead of us that will align with that.
Tyra, listening to you, it makes sense. It's logical. It sounds great on paper, but it seems like an enormous feat to be an outside organization trying to get a federal agency and all the many steps and levels and people that you have to get to see things the way that you do. So have you had a number of stumbling blocks or hurdles that you have had to overcome as an organization?
Are you talking about as an organization, i.e. a FIA?
Yes.
So yes, the short answer is yes. We've had some stumbling blocks. There was legislation that our founder presented many years ago to have some systemic change in the way that SESers are recruited and hired to ensure, again, greater opportunity. That bill was never passed. It's still in Congress, so there is still opportunity to go back and pursue that. To pursue that. As I said, AFIA is as relevant today, if not more so, than it was 20 years ago when it was founded. So there still are struggles. There still are barriers and this is why we exist. But we are hopeful and we're determined. We are determined, and we want to leverage our partnerships. We want to leverage alliances with other organizations, federal agencies, to ensure that we can gain that momentum and pursue those outcomes.
I'm going to pull up some images that my producer has, and I want you to tell us what we're looking at.
Okay, happy to do so. So this is at one of our annual conferences. You see folks are very focused, laser sharp.
Yes.
There is probably a dynamic speaker there, of which we have had some amazing keynote speakers at our workshop. I'm happy to talk about that in a little later. Maybe you have a photo or two of one of those. But as I mentioned earlier, we hold these workshops every September. This year it will be held September 19th through 21st. This year is scheduled to be hybrid. So like most organizations, we pivoted in 20 and 21, and we went 100% virtual. But this year we're going to expand and go hybrid. So it will be at the University of Maryland Marriott Conference Center on September 19th for 3 days. So
beautiful place.
These are our founders. In the center is Mr. William A. Brown Sr. He's our first national president of the organization, and he served in that role for the first 14 years of its founding. To his left in the white is the late Tracy Penson, and to his right, to his left is Dr. Lenora Gant. And these three individuals attended, brief backstory, a Harvard University executive education program back, I believe, in the late 90s. And it was at that development experience that they were the only 3 out of 132 people in that particular leadership course. And it was in that moment that they decided an organization needs to be formed to support our community, because otherwise, because we need to ensure that others who look like us have these kinds of opportunities. And so they've been committed. This again is at one of our annual workshops, and you see there in the center, Miss Susan Taylor, former. Yes, that is her, and she was one of our keynote speakers as well. Yeah. This is a group of our fellows, so happy to talk about them. One of our signature programs is a Fellows Leadership Development Program. It's a 12-month experience. It's for members only, but in that 12 months, these individuals develop a capstone project. They participate in mock interviews. They write their executive core qualifications, which again, for those who are not familiar with the federal structure, to gain entry into the senior executive service, you have to write what is called executive core qualifications. There are 5. and leading change, leading people, results driven. And that's part of your resume package or application package. Those are reviewed by an external panel, folks who don't even know you, not in your agency. And a determination is made on whether or not you're fit for the senior executive service. So we focus in on helping our fellows actually craft and develop their ECQs to ensure that their package is rock solid and ready to compete.
And I see we had some comments. I'm going to try to read them.
Okay.
Victoria, I'm a current AFIA fellow. It's so nice to see AFIA represented here by President Dent. I hope to be an SES someday, and proud to be a part of AFIA's working to improve diversity in SES. Thank you, Victoria. Oh, Andrea, she's a new member of AFIA, and I see great outcomes for the organization and its members. Okay, great. Keep sharing your comments, and I'm going to go and keep letting you talk, Tyra. Oh, we know who this is.
Well, yeah, there's no introduction needed here. We were honored to host General Colin Powell at our workshop. In fact, it was our last in-person workshop in 2019. And it was just a phenomenal experience. He brought so much character, so much wisdom, and just to be in the room with him and hear him share was just, it was just the ultimate impact ever. And that is our past president, Leslie Miller Frazier. She served as president following our founding president, Mr. Brown, from 2016 to 2019.
Oh, okay. This is the flyer.
And this is the event that we are all gearing up for Monday, February 28th, where we will host our virtual anniversary celebration. It is all virtual. We are so excited. We will pay tribute to and honor our founders for their vision, for their great leadership, and their commitment to this organization and its purpose.
Celebrating 20 years, what does that feel like to be a part of something, knowing what you know, we're not anywhere where we need to be in the workforce, knowing that you're a part of an organization really working to make change?
It feels humbling. Just you asking that question gave me chills. It's almost surreal. We've enjoyed a fabulous month celebrating this milestone every week in this month, and I've described it as Black History Live. We have just talked about the journey, we have celebrated it, and it feels rewarding because the purpose that we serve is relevant and has so much potential impact and meaning in the lives of African-American federal senior managers.
Tyra, what do you want people to know about AFIA, which stands for African-American Federal Executive Association? What do you want them to know beyond the words that you can read on the website?
I want them to know that they need to be a member, that they need to belong, that they need to connect with like-minded individuals who have similar experiences and or different experiences that can be instructive or informative, that they have a place to go where they can share and receive. So it's a give and take. We give, but we also receive and open up, for our members to have that safe space.
Is there a success story that kind of comes to mind when you think about it with your years being in the organization?
Yes, there is probably a couple of success stories, but I will highlight one,
Okay.
and I will call out his name.
Oh, okay.
We have actually a current board member, Carrie Neal. And Carrie, when I was invited to join the board, I was invited by Leslie Frazier, who you saw just before. Yes. I was invited to join as the chancellor. And my responsibility was to execute on the fellows program, to administer and execute the fellows program. And Carrie was in my first fellows class. And he came into the program as a fellow. We spent a year together doing all of this learning and development. Kerry went on, at that time he was a GS-15. He went on from there and obtained his senior executive service rank. And he's just soared. You know, he was recently named as a fellow for the National Academy of Public Administration, NAPA. Some may know that organization as well. And so he is one of our success stories. So Kerry, if you're out there, if you didn't know that, you are one of our success stories. He came in as a member, he went through the fellows program, got the SES, and continues to soar professionally and personally. So we want that for all of our members, Taylor. I mean, really, that is the story we want to tell for all of them. And that's why we just invite them to join us.
What is the membership process other than the fact that you need to be a GS-13 and up?
And a federal employee.
Okay.
I do want to emphasize GS-13 through SES or equivalent. Okay. And defense or intelligence agency. So every federal agency, U.S. government agency, doesn't necessarily have the GS schedule system that I described earlier. So it's or equivalent. But the cost for membership is just $125 for a year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, how affordable is that? I mean, you can do the math, and that might be, 10 or 15 Starbucks drinks, right? But then you get so much rich experience and exposure and access to executives and other senior leaders across the government. And we get a lot of feedback from our members that really relishes in the fact that, oh my gosh, I didn't know that my colleague in my own agency who might work 2 floors down or 2 floors up was a member of a FIA, So we're really looking to create some kind of ambassadorship, if you will, where we can ensure that all of the employees at HUD or all of the members, FIA members at HUD know that they are all FIA members, or at the Department of Commerce or at the EPA, and that will also help, expand the organization and our brand awareness.
So this Monday is the 20th celebration. I have the honors of hosting that. What can the members or non-members expect to see on Monday?
So first, let me emphasize that the event is for members only. So if you are not a member, please join. You don't want to miss this event and what's going to follow. But they can expect to hear, they can expect to be moved by the story. We're going to tell the entire story of a FIA. We're going to have entertainment. We're going to have tributes. It's just going to be Black History Live. People will experience history in the making. And we are just so excited to be celebrating this milestone.
I have to thank Tyra Dent. She is the national president of the African American Federal Executive Association. And I want to thank you. And we're going to close out with your segment with this wonderful promotional flyer ad that you have. And again, thank you so very much. And I'm going to see you on Monday.
Yes, you are. And thank you for joining us. We are delighted to have you.
You are more than welcome. So now we're going to play you the commercial so you can get all the information you need if you want to take part and be a member and join us on Monday. All right, our next guest standing by. His name is Jonathan Gant, and he is actually a life coach. But there's so much more to Mr. Gant, and we're going to talk about that. And he is a special guest as well. Let's bring him on to the camera and have him meet everyone tonight. Good evening, Mr. Gant.
Good evening. How you doing, Taylor?
I am wonderful. Looking forward. We have a lot to talk about. We only have 30 minutes. I need an hour with you, but we have a lot to talk about.
Okay.
So listen, let's get a little bit of your background before we get into PR 16 and before we start talking about Give Me Just 15 Minutes.
Okay. My name is Jonathan Gant, but everybody call me Johnny Biggs or Biggs for short.
Okay.
I'm a certified life coach. I do a few things. The thing that I'm most proud of is I'm a husband and a father of two and a grandfather. So I'm pretty proud of that. I'm a believer, Christian. I mean, all of those and above.
Now, I've got quite a few people that sent your name in for me to bring you on the show to talk about you and what you're doing and how you're giving back. And tonight's show is about leadership. And that's exactly what it is that you're galvanizing people to do their part. What does it mean when you say, give me 15 minutes?
Okay, what we talk about is for 15 minutes. We say give us 15 minutes and it could save your life. I found just do some basic research on the things that I do. Like I say, I'm a life coach. I do vision board workshops. I'm one of them people that believe if you can dream it, you definitely can achieve it. And we say give us 15 minutes because just do some research and some evaluation, talking to a lot of young people. I figured out a lot of this gun violence is stemming from people just reacting so quickly and not really taking the time to stop and think about what they're doing. In those 15 minutes, if you just stop for a moment and reflect on what it can actually cost you, whether it's your life, whether it's 40 to 50 years, if you just stop for a moment and say, you know what, I'm going to evaluate this, and maybe, just maybe, it could save my life. At the very least, it can change it.
Now, you have a film related to gun violence.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
The film is PR 616. It's from my production company, Johnny Biggs Entertainment and Vision Quest Productions. And what it is it's a short movie and a documentary. It's kind of intertwined. And what we do is we try to show what those 15 minutes look like about when you start talking about being impulsive and quick behavior and the reaction. And the movie it takes the scripture, Proverbs 6:16. These 6 things does the Lord hate, the 7th is an abomination. And what we take that entire scripture, those 3 scriptures, and we put it in a film from an urban and contemporary perspective. It's it's a little spicy and dicey, but it's actually the way we act and the way we talk in today's vernacular.
So what?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. Other than the headlines, what made you decide to do your part about doing a film about this? Because we've had films about this, movies about this, documentaries about this. What inspired you to get behind this?
Well, I tell you, Taylor, I was going to work. I would ride by these makeshift memorials. And I remember vividly seeing the mural of the girl, Nae Washington, this summer, the 6-year-old girl that was just going to the bodega. And it kind of like took a lot from me. And, and just praying and reflecting and asking God. And he said, well, you got a voice. And I said it wasn't big enough. And he said it was.
So
I picked the pen up and I started writing.
So had you ever produced before like this?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And just to show you, I'm not going to hit you over the head with the Bible tonight, but he kind of like orchestrated things. We had a lot of great people come in and decide that, that they wanted to be a part. Everything was, I financed a lot, and then we had a lot of volunteers that came in. Everything is totally original in the movie. The music is original. The actors are new, and everybody just came in and they committed and they bought into the vision.
Now you actually have a special guest with you, the mayor of Edmonston, Miss Tracy Gant, right? Your cousin, right?
Right. And she was come on, Tracy. She was very instrumental in it.
Welcome, Tracy.
Hello, thank you. How are you?
I am good. Thank you.
Very good.
One of the things she did is I do a cooking show also on Saturdays, twice in the month. And she came in and she brought the state's attorney, Aisha Brave Boy, on the show.
Yes.
And she came in and she said, Biggs, we know what's getting ready to happen every summer. We know people gonna go to cookouts, they're gonna get mad, block the street off, and then that's gonna be a gun battle. And and she just began to relay some of the stories that was going on, and she became proactive, trying to stop it. And Tracy was instrumental in bringing that on the show. And so then they were in some meeting, and she said that, and I told her, I said, Tracy, I'm gonna do this movie. And she said that she was in a meeting and she was telling him, and she said, well, you know what, Biggs getting ready to do a movie about this exact thing.
Mayor Gant, tell us a little bit about Edmonston.
Edmonston, it is a gem. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to calm down. I love Edmonston. Edmonston is located between Hyattsville, Bladensburg, Riverdale. We are a small community. We have a farm. We're about environment. It's lovely. We do some fantastic things in Edmonston. I've been in local government for just about 30 years now. Started out as a council member and then decided to run for mayor. And I just love just operating in that capacity because we're on the ground and we see, we're able to touch lives.
Now with PR 616, what is the importance to the residents in Edmonston?
Once they see the film, it's going to change their life because the film brings so many things to reality. You ever hear someone speak and you say, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's what I wanted to say. And so the film does that. We see, we don't have a lot of crime in Edmonston, but around us, we're seeing a lot of gun violence. And we do things for our children. We're very connected with the schools, Rogers Heights, Bladensburg, William Wirt, and we're very connected with it. And that brings on so much anxiety for our children just to see or hear about shooting and thinking, am I going to make it in school today? Is someone going to bring a gun to school today? So it affects all of us. It affects Edmonston. It affects the surrounding area, Prince George's County, other counties. It even, I don't want to take over the interview, but it even causes our children to question our police officers. And that's not what we want. You want to be able to trust your police officers. You want to be able to know that something is going to be, you're going to do the right thing as a police officer. And also for us as political leaders, what are we going to do? Things are happening all around us, but are we going to make a change? So that's the great thing that Biggs did. He brought the film out, and now we'll be able to reach prayerfully the masses.
So now how can one see your film and how long is it? You said it's a short film, so.
Well, it's about an hour and 10 minutes. We're going to have one permit where we're actually going to have, I'm sorry.
That's a regular length.
Well, the feature film is 20 minutes, it's 30 minutes. And the documentary is about 25 to 27 minutes. And we're actually going to do some panel discussions with it, and we're going to do a call to action because we're going to actually put some legislation together with this to go along with the movie. We don't just want to be saying, okay, this is just for entertainment purposes, and then everybody go home. No, that's not what we're about. As we do on our cooking show, we have boots on the ground organizations organizations that's out there that's fighting every day, that's battling, trying to get these guns out of these kids' hands, trying to give them something else to do, creating avenues and scenarios for them to be successful. So that's what we want to do. We have some core beliefs. I believe that it's absolutely too many guns on the street. I was reading something the other day that said that if your child is not reading by the time they're in the 3rd grade, they're 4 times more likely to go to the jail. So that school to prison pipeline is real. We got some legislation that's going to help figure that out. So we're going to start an online petition. We want to go to the some of these political leaders and executives and say, here, we got 25,000 signatures in DC, 50,000 signatures in Prince George's County. And this is what we need. We need you to sign on and make some of these things happen. I believe that if we all as a community, if we all come together, we can figure this thing out.
What has the response been for those who initially seen your short film?
It's been overwhelming. A lot of people, they waiting to see the finished product. I know you're asking, we're going to have a premiere on March the 10th at MLK Library. And then we're going to have one in Prince George's County. We're working on getting the venue together on that now. And everybody has seen it. We have some people from the state's attorney's office and some other from the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. I'm sorry?
Our pastors.
Oh, yeah, and some pastors, faith-based community. We have a lot of people that have seen it. And, I mean, they're really excited. They want to, we still doing a little editing, some things figuring out. I was just telling one of the great directors, Dennis Sample and Tracy, when Erykah Badu did that song, I'm an artist, so I'm sensitive. I'm a little sensitive about my work.
Yeah.
Even though it's my first one, I'm still a little sensitive about it. But it's been overwhelming. Everybody's talked very great. I've heard a lot of great things about it. People.
Now, Biggs, you said it's it's kind of in your face, so it's street lingo, and I'm assuming it is what it is, people are dealing with. So if you're expecting, I'm assuming, a PG version, this is probably not it. This is real lingo, the way people are dealing with things and conflict. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes, very much so.
It's a little PG-ish. It's a little PG-ish, PG-ish 13, something like that.
So what age group is it targeted for?
I'm sorry?
What age group or demographic is this targeted for? Is it adults and kids? Is it just teens?
Yeah, well, it's I would say maybe from 11 to, I guess to an adult. You know what I mean? But I would say, Taylor, I just read in the paper 2 weeks ago that the police stopped a 13, 14, and 15-year-old. They were having a gun battle. Correct. So we need to, wherever these kids are, we need to get where they're at and reach them. You know what I mean? So some people might like, well, man, that might be a little harsh for them. Well, this is what they're dealing with every day. So we need to be able to reach them and talk to them. I mean, I've talked to my pastor. He's open to me showing it in the church. It has some profanity in it, but it's not overwhelming profanity. It's not explicit. It's not sexual. It's not nothing like that, but it deals with a lot of real issues.
And if I might, some of the comments that we've heard is authentic, real. They could relate to it. And there is language. And, as some mature folk, some of the language may cause us to bat our eyes just a little bit, but it is what our children are experiencing and hearing. So it's not like over and over you're going to hear profanity. No, but it kind of allows them to relate to what they're going through now, some of them.
Well, I do understand that, and I was saying that caveat for parents who are going to make plans to see this, to be prepared to that your kids may not say this around you, but there's things that they see and do when they're together and we're not around them. So to be in a room, what do you hope happens after this film is played? I mean, from a parent or a guardian with a young child.
I actually would like for them to reach out if they need help. We want to provide resources also. You know, I was thinking, doing some of my prayer and meditation time, and a thought came in my mind. What would my best case scenario be? And I would say, I actually like to close up some of these prisons. I like to see a reduction to where it's not as many of people of color going to jail as it was 10 years ago. I like to cut the suicide rate in half. I like to see in 2020, we had over 20, the numbers are not in for 21 yet, but we had in 2020, we had over 20,000 suicides. So we know mental health treatment is a big aspect of this gun violence. That's going to be a part of the solution. I like to see that cut in half. That can happen. 75 to 84% of all murder victims know each other. If we stop killing each other, we can solve that problem right there. Just the people that we know. So, I mean, I like to see that cut. I like to see people begin to talk more. And with legislation, with the faith-based community, with parents, with studies. I mean, when I heard the evaluation that if you're not reading by the time you're in the third grade, you're 4 times more likely to go to jail. I'm like, well, we need to put a reading wing in every school. Add an hour. We need to do whatever to get these kids reading. I mean, I don't see what's the big deal about that. You know, and that's some, I guess that's maybe some of my frustration. Let's enact some of the things that we know will work. You know, let's say, okay, well, these kids can't read. We're going to keep them here until they can read. Whatever it is we need to do to get them reading, whatever resource, it costs less to teach a kid to read than it will to house them in a penitentiary. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me.
So Tracy and Biggs, individually, what do you believe are some of the contributing factors why these young Black boys and girls may be picking up a gun instead of, you know, having a discussion or having a dispute? What is it about the gun where you know that that's going to or could kill anyone that gets in its way? What do you attribute that to in some of the communities?
My thought is there are so many factors. One, home. What's the home life like? The other is communication and understanding how to digress or to say, I'm not going to fight. We talk about sometimes when we were growing up, how if you didn't get along with someone or you had a beef with someone, you just fist fight. That's how it was. 3 o'clock. I'll see you after school, 3 o'clock. Now it's a bit different. They're bringing guns to school. So that means someone is not responsible at home. Someone didn't lock it up. Someone is exposing what they have. And maybe it's licensed, maybe it's not. So our children have a lot of freedoms. We have video games. We have video games. Video games are exposing our children to, I think they're desensitizing some of our children when they're seeing the shoot them up and the blood, and then people can get back up and start all over again. Before, we used to watch Bugs Bunny and other cartoons that would fall, but it wasn't the blood and guts. You know, you just start the film, another version of the film over again. So those factors are in our children's minds. They're going to school, and we do put a lot on our school systems too. So I think it needs to be we need to figure out where everyone falls, because home, we need to teach our children. In school, we need to teach our children as well. Education, but a lot of times in schools, our teachers are dealing with mental issues. They're dealing with hunger issues because children are going, they're hungry. So there's so many factors in our school. And then politically, a lot of times politically, what happens is we fight against each other. I want to be the one to present the bill, or I don't like you, so I'm going to talk bad about you in the political realm. So we're losing as well. So we have to become more responsible, hear what our citizens are saying, and then go ahead and move forward, because that's what we're there for. We're there to push the bill. We're there to push the ordinance. We're there to make the change as well, to hear the people and make the change. So I think there's so many factors, but we can do it.
Yeah, I would piggyback a lot off of what the mayor said. I think that the faith-based community have let us down a little bit. And this is coming from a believer. I'm a faithful tither. You know what I mean? I pay tithes, go to church, all of that. And I would say that we kind of like let the community down a little bit. I believe that the law enforcement community has let the community down a little bit. I believe that it has been a lot of us, and a lot of these kids, they're dealing with home insecurity, food insecurity. They're dealing with a lot of other things. And then we, and don't get me wrong, I like music, I like rap music and all of this, but I'll be one of the first to say that some rap music done more for gun manufacturers than the NRA could ever do. By glorifying these guns. So then you get a lot of kids where they're not mentally and emotionally developed or not, and you put a gun in their hand and they've been playing Call of Duty, like Tracy saying, all this other stuff, and they go out there and they think it's the Wild Wild West. I mean, I've talked to some young guys and I've asked them some of these questions, and some of them will sit up there, and after we all get down to it, and I ask them, I say, well, at the end of the day, you don't really hate this guy, you just mad at him.
Right.
You mad and you ready to take his life the way as he won't be here no more, and then you're going away for 30 to 40 years. So then who gonna raise your child? I don't believe that we've tried for years. We're not going to lock up our way out of this problem. That creates more of a problem, because then you got these kids at home and they're raising themselves or their grandmother or their mother trying, and it's a struggle. We need these fathers and their mothers. We need them home with your kids and raising them, not just leaving them. Right. Can't let a TV raise them. You can't let the music raise them. Right. Then you have some that's chasing the bag. You know what I mean? One of the things that I teach in my vision board workshop is you don't have to break law to get the bag. You don't. You don't have to rob nobody. You don't have to bill. You don't have to beat nobody out no money. You don't have to steal. If you make the decision that you're going to work hard and grind, one thing that I say is no grind, no brain, no game. No grind and no game.
I think that's a very interesting concept, because I think kids are so used to this instant gratification. Absolutely. And I believe social media really causes that, one, between their attention span, because they're used to being gratified by seeing something on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, if they're even using that. But understanding that you may see the end product when you see something in Facebook or on Twitter or Instagram, but they may have taken 5 years to get to what you're seeing. It didn't happen overnight, and we've got to connect the dots. But I do think I've heard from parents as well that, some of them are going to have to do their part in getting involved. If they're given everything as a kid, they've got to understand what mom and dad did to get what they have, and it didn't happen overnight.
Absolutely. I'm guilty. I remember one time my wife telling my daughter and son, she said, what the problem is, y'all think this is easy. We make this look easy. Right. But it's not easy. You know what I mean? And so you're right. You have to teach kids, you can get this. Some of these things that we have, that if you make the decision that you're going to work, and teach them how to work. You have to teach them and show them. You know what I mean? This is how you obtain this. A lot of times when you're looking on Instagram and Facebook, and as you were speaking about instant gratification, those are highlights. When you see people in these nice cars, and those are highlights. What I mean? It's some work that come behind that. Right. It's some grind.
Is there anything with the program and that you are doing that there is where children can get a sense of self-worth? Because once you pull a trigger, there's no coming back from that. It changes the complete trajectory of your life. And I don't know if some kids understand that. And when I go to schools and I talk to kids about, your life can be more than the 5 or 10 blocks that you're familiar with.
Right.
I don't know if there is some way of reaching them and just letting them know that's a reality. And I know sometimes it's easier said than done. So I think that's really clever that you're using verbiage and language that the kids hear, so that it's not I know maybe the word is not the best thing to say, TV friendly, but when they're hearing something, it makes them turn. They may even giggle when they hear it. I know when there's something that is that real and there's adults around them, they're like, oh, okay, so it's going to be like that. And I think they listen more than if you clean it up and you make it as if it's a storybook, which is not maybe the life that they're used to.
Right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And and that's some of the things. That's how we address it in the movie. You know what I mean? They're kind of like really. It's kind of edgy. So we bring it home, saying, when I talk to young people, I was the same young guys that I was talking to, and I say, y'all kind of 10 of y'all. Well, the state's attorney in Prince George's County, her conviction rate is 95% for homicide and violent crime. 95%. So 9.5 of y'all are going to jail if you do something like that. 9.5.
Wow.
That means that you're going to be in there 30 to 40 years if you get away, or if somebody don't come back and you go away for the rest of your life. So when you decide that you're going to, like you say, your whole life trajectory changes. Once you pull a trigger, trust me, it gets easier the next time. And then that's what makes her be able to, and see, she don't want to lock you up. She don't want to, she have told me, I don't want to sit on the other side of that table with her. That's not where I want to be. I'd rather be, going to school, talking about a career and being a legal professional. But if you do something wrong in Prince George's County, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to lock you up. So you're looking at 95% of the time, you're going to end up with your best case scenario, 35 to 40 years. That means you're going to be getting up with the same people for 30 to 45 years. That means you're going to be eating breakfast. That means you're going to be calling your mama to send you canteen, even when she don't have it. And if she don't have it, you're going to starve. I mean, there's so many different things that you can talk about that's going to be totally negatively impacting your life if you look at it from a real perspective. One of the things that we say in the movie, nobody, it say these 6 things does the Lord hate, and the 7th is an abomination. Nobody can deal with depression when God decides to hate. Nobody.
How can the community support you? I know we're wrapping up at the beginning, the program in and of itself. How can the community support you with your efforts to get the word out? And then would you also repeat where people can go to see the film in March?
Okay. You can go to Instagram, PR616, the movie. And we have a link that you can either go to the GoFundMe page. You can register for the movie. We also have a YouTube link up. You can go on to Johnny Biggs in Instagram. That's Johnny Biggs, JOHNNYBIGGS. And then PR616, the movie, on Instagram. Or you can find me on Facebook at Jonathan Gant. And you can register on Eventbrite, and it'll be that I think we're 75% filled to capacity right now in DC at the MLK Library on March the 10th. And then we're looking for other streaming platforms that we're going to actually put the movie out. We're expecting, Taylor, this is not just this gun epidemic, it's just not here. It's all across this country, and I would be remiss to say that it just doesn't. I mean, when I see Neil Washington, it was like it was taking a brick out of me as a human being to see just a 6-year-old girl can't be a 6-year-old girl, and that's just something that it does something to me every time I think about it and reflect. So we're looking for as much support as we can. We want this movie to go nationwide. We want to show it as many places as we can. We're going to have panel discussions. We're going to talk to people. And like I say, I'm about solutions. I'm about putting boots on the ground. I'm about if, we have some political figures say, well, we need to march down to Annapolis to the State House or down to the courthouse in D.C., the John Wilson building. Hey, I'm with it. I ain't got no problem with it. I mean, if we can have these people that come here that can stop traffic with tractor trailers because they don't like some other type of political agenda, if we don't do that, if I'll do that to save our kids, I will.
That's wonderful. Jonathan Grant, also known as Johnny Biggs. He is the director of PR 616 and the mayor of Edmonston in Maryland, Tracy Gant. I thank you both so very much. I wish you much success in getting the word out and getting kids to see other options other than picking up a gun and hurting someone else or themselves. So again, I thank you very much. And I look forward to maybe following up with you next month and seeing how things are going and maybe even opening up a panel discussion here.
Oh,
Amen. That'll be
great.
awesome.
That'll be great.
It would be.
Yeah.
Very good. Very
Thank
good.
you so very much. Well, that'll do it for tonight's edition of Black Press and NNPA's FIRE program. Until next week, everyone, God bless and goodbye.
Peace.